This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Today, we're going to help you streamline your business meetings and maximize productivity using the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is also known for EOS, and a software that we use called 90. In today's episode, we'll dive into the key components of a level 10 meeting, how to properly execute and run them using EOS, and the role of 90 in enhancing meeting efficiency. So, again, Shawn, thanks so much for joining us today, and let's dive in.
You sounded a lot more sophisticated than I think than it is, or than we operate at. But hey, it sounded wonderful. So,
well, let's get into it then. If it sounds wonderful.
No, it sounds good. I mean, the reason we're doing this is, last week, if you didn't listen to it, in episode 191, we talked about annual planning. How do we plan for our year and break down into quarters and all that. Now we're going to take it one step deeper and really get into how we run those meetings and the software we use to run those meetings and how we properly run level 10 meetings at mid-level managers.
Correct.
And even in our accounting department. And everybody's running EOS level 10 meetings. And we're going to get into a little bit deeper on what is it, how do you run a meeting? And I think it if anything, it provides you insight on how to, because people just approach sometimes meetings and just show up and don't have agenda, don't know what they're talking about, don't have a structure to it.
Right.
And I think you can get really lost and you get, oh man.
You go on tangents. You go on tangents, right?
That's where I was going. We've had a few tangents.
An hour and we 45 minutes of it is just talking nonsense about an employee or something that happened, right? But EOS is not designed for, it's designed for you to productively have a meeting. You have an hour worth of time and you go through the key high level points really of your meeting.
Correct. And it's all timed, it's all documented. And so it just runs, you're just much more productive and structured. And so that's where we're going to get into. So how do you structure it? How do you run it? We're big users of EOS, and on top of that, we use a software called 90.io. We've been really happy with that. We're running it now for over a year, the software, but all it does is run level 10 meetings for you. And you can break it down into different groups. So we have our pod, we call them pod leads, and our leadership, which is our mid-level management, and they're running EOS level 10 meetings. And then with each pod is running their own level 10s, and then our accounting. So,
correct.
But let's go into what is a tell us a little bit more about EOS, so in case people don't understand and for those of you that don't know EOS, I would start with reading the book Traction, right? That's where EOS comes from, the book Traction. And when we were looking at implementing something like this, we were actually having issues in our leadership team, right? Like we had taken a month off on vacation and came back, and our business was kind of all over the place, right? And so we ended up putting a leadership team in place and implementing EOS. And it's really designed so that the entire team can get aligned with your vision and your goals, and we're all headed in one direction. Right. I always looked at it visually, because I'm a visual person. If you had a highway headed towards your ultimate BHAG or your big goal, hairy audacious goal, and then you had curbs on the side, and so EOS is like the curbs. It keeps you, so even if you fall asleep or you start drifting, at least bumper cars, you stay, or you can say bump, in a bowling alley, bumpers, and they just keep that ball, and so even though you might get a little separated, you might make a wrong decision and takes your business a little, you hit a curb and it comes right back and you end up in where you should be eventually.
Love that. So, great analogy.
I'm simplifying it, keeping it simple.
And man, have we hit lots of curves along the way.
Our hitting the curbs is really rough at times. It feels like jerks, but at least we're still upright and still headed down the right
right path. So, just EOS, it's an operating system designed to help your business achieve your vision through practical tools and processes. So one of the tools is obviously level 10 meetings. That's one of the big ones. You've heard us talk about other tools that we use. 90 is just helps you, a software that helps you run level 10 meetings. It tracks it. It does time tracking. It has your agenda all built into it. So you just run from one thing to the next.
Right.
So,
which is really cool too, because once you go through entire year, right, in EOS and tracking it on 90, you can go back and say, okay, like I want to see like what I accomplished last year. And not only that, but if you're running it in the mid-level management, you can see like how far have they come, which is pretty cool to, open it up to the entire organization and say, look, guys, this is what we've done, right?
And you can check what are your other pods, what like to-dos, what IDS, which like issues that they're having at their level and what they're putting down, so you can see, okay, what down the chain or down the road are people having within your organization, and kind of look at that.
Yeah, or making sure that they are setting the right rocks, right? Because our leadership team may have a whole set of rocks that we're trying to accomplish. And then you look at your mid-level management, they have totally different ones that don't even align to your goal. Then that's a problem.
You're off pace.
Yeah.
So just an introduction to level 10 meetings, if you're not aware, they're just weekly check-ins to keep the leadership team, or as you progress in this, it could be other departments and other managers running level 10s within their own organization. But it's just keeping the check-in on level 10s or different departments aligned, and then focusing on resolving issues to move the company forward. So really what it does is allows you to check in, see how everybody's doing. We're going to talk about setting benchmarks or scorecard to track that they are performing and they're moving in the right direction. They are getting stuff done. That's the biggest thing, is it holds people accountable.
Right.
And I think you were going to mention something.
Yeah, because that's one thing too. Like when the first leadership team that we put in place, we would come in week after week and, check in on the scorecard, and, certain individuals would not make any effort to, do their rock or whatever they had to do for that week, right? And so constantly are coming in 0, 0, 0, 0. Then there's an issue. Is it an issue with that person, or do they don't have the capacity maybe to complete the rock?
Or
right?
it's just the wrong. It's not clearly defined. They don't understand it. What is happening? And it doesn't mean that they are responsible for doing that scorecard or that task or that rock all by themselves. They're just the one that owns it.
Right.
They're responsible for it, but then they need to delegate it to their own team.
And that sometimes can be hard for individuals to know, okay, like, all right, a rock is assigned to me. That means I'm responsible for that. That means I have to complete it all.
Yeah.
And so for them to realize, okay, well, that's not true. You can delegate some of this stuff off, which is really hard.
And you're
for
supposed
some
to
people.
delegate it to your team and have people help you accomplish it. You're just supposed to make sure it gets done,
right,
and make sure it's driving in the right direction. So, but then the other thing is not only so that we're headed in the right direction, we're keeping aligned, we're keeping focus on our where we're headed. But then next, it's resolving issues, because every week we're going to have issues that come up in our business, like issues that are going to derail us from accomplishing our goals or accomplishing our raw. And so there allows for time. The biggest portion of a level 10 meeting is identifying issues.
To go through those issues,
which is IDS. And so that's really, you're going to spend some time talking about those. And that out of that discussion is going to create to-dos. It might even create a rock in some cases, but it's figuring out what's wrong, what's happening, what do we do wrong. And usually when you set a rock at the beginning of the year, maybe halfway through the year, you're like, okay, maybe this isn't something. You researched it, you start going down that route, and you're like, this isn't the right rock for us. This is not where we want to take our company. We thought it was, but it wasn't. And then when you get into it, you discovered it was something. So you could also change paths. And you could talk about that.
And what I like about having the 90 software too is when you are coming up with issues. I mean, we have issues every day, right? And we only have our L10 meetings once a week. And so if there's an issue that comes up earlier in the week, and you're like, man, like I don't want to forget about that. Right. You can put it in the software, the 90 software, and that way you can make sure that you don't forget it when the meeting does come.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and if you're on a budget and you don't have we ran all of this. So I recommend you getting, in the beginning, if you're really serious about EOS this year, I recommend hiring an implementer or an integrator. Implementer come in, get you set up, usually stay with you for a week or 3 days. They help you develop your leadership team, start running you on meetings. They can stay with you for like a little while, meaning like a month. They'll help run your level 10 meetings every week. And then they pretty much set you and let you go and assign somebody to run those meetings every week. An integrator comes in and runs it for you weekly and more involved in and probably give you 10 hours a week in your organization. And so obviously the cost is a lot more, but I highly recommend doing it.
I think it's eye-opening because I think that you and I are so close to it, right? And having somebody outside, like coming in, be like, all right, guys, like, bringing us together and making sure that we are headed in the right direction and can give some perspective on that.
Yeah. So reach out to us if you're looking for an integrator or a implementer. We can recommend a couple that we highly recommend, some local to Houston, some that nationwide. And so we can recommend some people for you. So, and then from there though, where was I going with this? No. But get started there. But if you're also on a budget, you don't need to start off with 90.
Oh, yes.
We ran our level 10 meetings out of you can do it out of Excel, Word. We put it into notes in Microsoft Teams. I think it was notes. And so we just ran it over our teams for several years, and it worked. Yeah. And I think Notebook, I don't know what it's called in Microsoft Teams, but it worked. And we ran, and we had our rocks, and we had our different tabs, and we were able to track it all in there. But EOS, the 90 software, just streamlines it and makes it a little bit more simpler. But if you don't have that kind of budget, you don't start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then let's talk about the components of a level 10 meeting. Let's get really into the nuts and bolts. So whether you're running it through just Word or you're putting it in a notepad or you're running it through 90, you can set different segments that you're going to run the different things you're going to run through in your meeting. And you want to structure because you want to keep your meetings very structured. You should have time limits for each one. So you know if you're getting off course, off time. So we have an hour to run this meeting, or you can do an hour and a half. And each block has so much time. And so you need to track that and make sure you're on time. We used to run those little
timers,
that would beep you and let you know. Sometimes,
and if you're on a budget, you can get a timer. That's okay, right? Yeah. But the 90 software has the timer already built inside it, so you know exactly, how much time you spent on that. Our leader who actually runs the EOS, he'll let us know. All right, we've taken too much time on this. It's time to move on to the next section, right?
And you got to have a strong leader running your level 10 meetings. Let's start there because you're going to need somebody that can keep it on track. So right now we have somebody that runs them, and then we have another person that takes the notes and puts the to-do task, puts so you have one person, what do you call it, transcribing in the software, and then you have one person that is running it. And so sometimes it could be the same person. It just sometimes it helps to separate it so that one person can stay on top of just making sure the meeting's running smoothly and that they're asking the right questions to really get to the key issue, and then you have somebody else that's just writing notes and
correct.
So
it really does keep it on track, and it
it can be a personal assistant, a VA that can that can be tracking and all that
Absolutely.
as well. But so first section is your segue. So you're just setting the tone for the meeting. You're sharing personal and professional high points for the week. So we always start with good news. So on a personal, it could be just talking about something cool you did that weekend, or anniversary, birthday, whatever. And you're just breaking the ice, right?
And I think it's also a way to, getting to know your leadership team on a personal level as well, right? You guys spend so much time with them. We spend so much time with our leadership team, and we want to share in that with them, So I think it's a great way to open that up.
Yes. Then we move on to the scorecard review. So that's where we track, and this is really just an accountability piece for your leadership team and this is huge because this is really it's one thing to have a meeting, set goals, but you can set goals at the end. I mean, we've all done this. Like we all set goals at the beginning of the year. And if you're not tracking them, if you're not holding yourself accountable or somebody's holding you accountable, it's going to be very hard to get, unless you're just super disciplined. You really want something really bad. It's going to be hard to get there, right? Unless you're tracking.
Absolutely. Just like we talk about key performance indicators in your organization and why that's important for your employees to know the why behind everything that you do. Same thing, right? You have to have those key performance indicators for your leadership team as well.
And so we set those at the annual meeting or at the quarterly meeting. We track what is going to be our scorecard, and it's a 0-1. You either did it or you didn't. It can't be like, I got like 50%.
Half a point.
It's not a half point. So it's either 0 or 1. You either completed it. And so you got to set really good measurables for the week. And so you know where you're headed and what's being tracked. The goal is to, you want to be like I think a team that's I believe EOS or Traction believes that if you accomplish like over 80% of your rocks, you're killing it. Right. You're doing a really good job. I think over 60%, you're doing well. You're headed in the right direction. Anything below that, then you have some issues and you need to figure out why you're not accomplishing.
Or if you over that percentage, then did you actually set high enough goals?
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Strong or big enough goals. Yeah. Or rocks. And so same thing weekly, you should be hitting those numbers to get you to where you want to be. Mm-hmm. So if you're running less than 60%, you're probably like either team's not performing well, you got to figure out what's going on, why can't they accomplish their goals of their scorecard each week. So
absolutely.
And then we go over rock review. So every week we're going over the rocks for the quarter and where we're at. Each team member that has a rock discusses or gives an update as to where they are on the rock.
I think this is a good opportunity for them to also, share with the group where they're at, right? And to ask for feedback, right? Because you might think that you're totally on point of, where that rock needs to head. And maybe your leadership team has a different perspective. So sharing that content with them is extremely important.
Yeah. So sometimes they'll present. So if it's, I don't know, like a new process or something like that, or maybe it's our employee job descriptions. They've completed majority of them. They'll present on it and they'll share with it and give our feedback on is it ready? Is it good?
Right. I think it's also a way to hold them accountable too, because if they're going to have to present on it, well, they're going to have to work on it, so they're not going to come next week's meeting with a 0. Yeah. Right.
And that's the job of the leader that's running this meeting is he'll or she will decide on, hey, oh, great, you've gotten that far. Why don't you present next week and put them on the spot? And that's uncomfortable, but you push the team member to make sure that they're holding their end and holds them accountable. So, and then next we'll do customer employee headlines. So we'll share positive feedback or positive experiences, feedback from customers or employees. And so just sharing what's working, what's not, share good things about different team members and customers and clients. And so it's a lot
positive, and also you go through maybe some of the issues that you're having with employees as well,
just to bring the whole leadership team up to speed. So then you go over your to-do list. So these are items you set for each week. Sometimes a to-do might take 2 weeks, and you can set that to-do date or that completion date in 2 weeks, but typically they're 1 week to do. So it's just it's a list of to-dos for the next upcoming week. So you review those, identify them, make sure that you completed them, they're done. And it's usually a to-do that will help you complete your rock.
Right. And it's one thing that's important, because I know that we've done this. I've done this personally myself, where I've set a to-do and then it just keeps adding on to the next week. Because you don't have time to do that, right? It just, again, hold you accountable to, all right, this is only going to be on there for a week. You got it, whether you delegate it off or do it yourself, you have to get this off the list within a week.
Yeah, and there's been ones that from all of us where it's like, you like looking, golly, it's still there.
You're like, I don't want to be called out next week, so I'm going to get this done.
It's like, right, just go away. Please disappear.
It's not going to disappear unless you complete it.
So, I mean, if that's the case, maybe you have to call and help and just say, hey guys, I'm having trouble getting this done. Or maybe to say, hey, I needed to be able to get this to somebody else. That's usually if it's still there, it means you're probably trying to do too much or trying to accomplish it. You're trying to hold on to it yourself instead of just letting somebody else handle it. Right. Whether it's in that team or whether it's downstream, somebody else to handle it. So, and then we do IDS, which we identify, discuss, and solve. And so, we're going to identify issues, we're going to discuss them, and then at the end, we're going to try to just solve it. Sometimes those are big enough where we had to set up a subcommittee.
Right.
And so we'll set up 3-4 members, invite other people from outside the leadership team or outside that meeting and say, hey, we need to bring in a couple key team members to bring in to discuss this. We need to figure out what's going on here. And so sometimes it creates a sub meeting out of it. Sometimes we can solve it right then and there. Sometimes
it's too big of an issue where we think, all right, well, maybe this needs to be a rock for next quarter. And so we'll put it on the bench, the parking lot until next quarter. And we'll put that as a rock.
So we have several big parking lot items right now that we'll discuss that are annual and go through it and make sure, hey, do we want to pull these off the parking lot? It's like, imagine a big parking lot of issues of cars. And you're like, okay, I'm going to take this one this quarter, or we're going to take it this year and knock it out because we think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you conclude with, just wrapping up, and we rate the meeting. So you're not rating the person that's running it. It's how well did we do? How do we identify issues? Did we solve them? Did we stay on point? The big thing is, did you stay on point? And that's the biggest thing. Something that
I think that's what EOS has taught us is that to stay on point, because I can remember over and over and over again of all of the tangents that we went. I'm like, what do we get done at the end of this? Nothing.
So just if you're not watching on film, you probably didn't. It doesn't help. You don't see it, but like we just both just saw all the. All the meetings we've been on where it's like just tangents. You're like just sitting there,
Squirrel.
I just want to say, just shut up, please. Just shut up. And it's just like, why are we talking about this? That's what I used to always say in my head. Why are we talking about this? We need to.
At some point, you finally we're vocal about it. Like, why are we talking about this? Like, this has nothing to do.
Yeah, but it's gotten so much better, and it's because we've added structure, accountability. The right people,
an actual leadership team.
Correct. And you're just running things that's smoother where people just stay on topic. We hit the issues, we solve them, we discuss them and move on. So
yes,
none of the emotions I think that people bring in. That's another thing is like I think a good leadership team has very high emotional intelligence.
Yes.
They just don't get caught up in all that. I think that helps. So just be aware of that before you put somebody on a leadership meeting.
Because you're going to be honest on how the meeting, and be honest on how you want to rate that.
Correct.
Right? If it was a terrible meeting, then say it was terrible.
Yeah. And so it's cool to see, we can look back in 90 and see all our meetings and how we've improved and how things have gotten more structured. So,
yeah.
Now, just we've already hit on a lot of it, but just using level 10 meetings, using 90, it just helps you streamline the meetings, like we said before, and document it all in one place. So the hard part about, unless you can use Google Docs, so that's another thing people use is Google Docs, and then they share them, and then they can just see the Google Docs spreadsheet or the Word doc. That's one way to do it. You can use Teams, like we said, Notebook, and share it that way. But it's got to be somewhere. It's got to be stored somewhere that everybody can see.
Anybody have access to it.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And review it.
Right.
Also, what's nice about 90 is what you mentioned earlier about preparing for the meeting. So you can put in key things ahead of time, and so people can see that, and you can say like at Joni and say, so then they see it, or you email notification that, hey, Joni put this in there. She wants to discuss it on the next level of 10, so you can prepare for it
Yeah, absolutely. It also gives the leader who's running the EOS, a heads up, like, oh, this might be a topic that may go over a little bit, even though we don't want to try to go over, but maybe it's that important where, he can add additional time to that particular topic or whatnot.
And just, again, it just documents it. You can record it, and you can, share it, and just something to follow up on and track and just hold everybody accountable.
Yeah. And to look back on after the year and to see, okay, like how much progress have I made?
So, just to kind of wrap up and we'll talk about some of the key roles within a level 10 meeting in EOS and some of the responsibilities. So there's the meeting facilitator, which is the person that's running it.
Right.
That's guiding it, keeping on track, ensuring that the agenda gets covered. There's the integrator, which is ensuring that the leadership team is executing on the decisions and holding the team members accountable. And so that's really, the integrator is really the one running the meeting. The facilitator is the one kind of jotting the notes, keeping track of everything, making sure we're on time, document it, putting the to-dos. And then there's the attendees, who are your leadership team or relevant stakeholders who contribute to the meeting's discussion and decision.
Which I think we had a podcast episode on the leadership team and what makes up the leadership team. So reference back to that. But quickly, do you want to kind of run through what our leadership team look like?
Well, it's got to be the key stakeholders. So for us, it's the owners or like the visionaries, the COO, which is like your integrator, the one that's doing the operations, and then your key department heads. So it'd be accounting and finance would be one, and your marketing and sales would be the other, and then usually your operations. Yeah. So those are the key people in our leadership, because they each have a key stake in the business, and they lead key departments that drive our business.
Yes.
So
I also often get the question asked to me, like, how are you and Shawn able to run 5 successful businesses, right? And I think one of the biggest things is mastering, the L10 meetings on every level, right? Because truly, you and I can't run every single company, but I know where every company is because I run L10 meetings in every different company.
That's a great point. Yeah. So it's and each business runs its own, and some run smoother than others. But it does help us keep track of everything.
Yeah.
It helps set our vision and goals for each company. It helps drive that vision and goal for each company, and keeps everybody accountable week in and week out.
Right.
So we as owners just pop in on these high level meetings, make sure that we try to be available those days and those times, and that's really how we get involved. We get involved in other things on day to day, but really these are the ways.
This is what we
to drive
master. Yeah.
Correct. So hope that helps. I hope, that was a great point. And something that gets brought up a lot is how do we manage all this? And sometimes we don't do a great job of it. Sometimes we do. But the one thing that really helps us is running level 10 meetings and EOS.
Structure. I always said structure and routines. Yeah. Right? 2 things that you are pretty good at it as well.
Yeah. No, you do a good job. So on a home, she's very structured and holds our kids and us accountable, and our dog to structure and everything, but it really matters. And so you might think we're a little too man, these people are really tight and
it may not work for you, but it works for us.
No, but it really matters, and that's how you just keep a structure and really drive things the right direction. If you don't have structure, then you're just bouncing off one thing to the next, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So hope that helps, and we'll see you all next week. I hope you're having a great start to the new year, and we're looking forward to everything, all the guests that we're having coming on, and some of the big topics we're going to be talking about this year. So it's going to be a good year, and hope you guys are starting off strong, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya, everyone.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.